Doma Sports Talk worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now let's talk legends, right? Let's talk legends. Mike Tyson is the legend. Baddest man on the planet. Awesome dude, right? You know, he's having these little fights. His last fight was with Roy Jones, exhibition fights. And, you know, we've been talking about who he might fight and all these names that come up and everything. Well, one name that comes up and then gets out of there real quick all the time is Evander Holyfield, right? And you have him from the, you know, the last app or station where he fought was Triller's thing going on, you know. And Triller was where Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones. And anyway, one of the higher ups in Triller, Ryan Kavanaugh, said, well, we can't get him. We're offering a lot of money for him to fight Holyfield, but he's basically scared to be knocked out by Holyfield. That's a huge statement to be on record. Normally you just be, you know how you be one of them sources, what sources say, and the source don't want you to tell who it is. No, I'm Ryan Kavanaugh, and I'm one of the heads up, one of the higher ups at Triller, and Mike Tyson is scared of Evander Holyfield. He don't want to get knocked out by him. Now, people, I've said things similar. I wouldn't say Mike Tyson is scared. That's a heavy word for fighters. But it's just he understands that Holyfield is an issue. Holyfield was an issue then. Holyfield is always going to be an issue for Mike Tyson. Don't just say Mike Tyson. Other fighters have guys that they know are an issue. And they will tell you when they're sitting down and having a, you know, I've beat up a lot of people, but this guy is a problem. All of the greats have that. Right? Mike Tyson, his is Evander Holyfield. And the reason is because Evander Holyfield, no extracurricular activities are going to work. No tactics, you know, fear tactics, bully tactics, any of that, you know, psychological things. None of that's working. He understands that Evander Holyfield always wanted to fight him from prime to now. He understands that when he went in the ring and hit him after the fight started. Guys, watch the fight. Watched that fight. The first fight with Evander Holyfield and Tyson and Mike Tyson at least once a year, maybe even twice, because it's just one of the greatest fights. Because at that point, you know, when it starts, ding, Mike Tyson hits Holyfield with a right hand that he could have stopped the fight with. That was definitely harder than what Bruce Seldon had to go through. Probably even Michael Spinks, you know, went down from lesser shots. Evander Holyfield was hit with something real good and just fell against the ropes and said, hey, it's a fight now. And that was the fight. And then he thoroughly, you know, fought Mike Tyson and wasn't running away from him, fought him, and took him out late. Those are the kind of fights that you don't want to mess around with. Now, Mike Tyson fight a whole lot of other people, but he ain't fight him no more. And he, you know, they said maybe Lennox Lewis, but I doubt that seriously too, you know, because Lennox, you ain't trying to mess with him neither. But at least with Lennox Lewis, you know, there's like when he lost to Lennox Lewis, he was able to at least say, hey, you know, that was towards the end of my career. You know, even though he was younger than Lennox Lewis, but you still were able to say that. You know, I wasn't in my prime, right? Against Holyfield, none of that. None of that. There's no excuses at all. And this is why a lot of fighters that I talk about now that won't get fought, if it's Louis the Real King Kong Ortiz, Deontay Wilder, Michael Hunter, Demetrius Andrade, the Charlo brothers, Terrence Crawford, Devin Haney, Guillermo Rigondeaux, and stuff like that. These guys won't get fought. David Morrell, they won't get fought because people understand that it's not, you're just not going to get knocked out. Right, with Deontay Wilder, you will. But the other ones, you aren't going to get knocked out. You're going to probably get thoroughly beaten. And thoroughly beaten is worse than getting knocked out because you don't have an excuse. You know, like when Floyd Mayweather fought Marquez. Now, Marquez is awesome. A legend with Manny Pacquiao, 4 great fights, close fights, and all that stuff. But against Mayweather, he got beat thoroughly. He after the fight, he didn't want no more Mayweather. Told you he was a better fighter, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Right? So, he didn't really have any excuses, wasn't making none. His fans were about he was at the division lower or whatever, but on fight night, he was only 1 pound lower. Right? And you gave Pacquiao all this trouble, but you can't give Mayweather none at all. So, he acknowledged that. And that's what you don't want to have to do after a fight. So, that's why those fighters, Demetrius Andrade ain't getting fought. Not saying that Canelo can't probably beat him with a nice body blow or something, but it's risky to go in there and probably get dominated for over a whole fight. You know, you can't do everybody like Rigondeaux. You know, you can't do it like that. You know, so that's why Mike Tyson ain't trying to mess with Holyfield. He feels that's a problem, and that he could probably get beat throughout the whole fight and probably get knocked out. That's what this guy Ryan Kavanaugh is saying. He could probably get knocked out, and that's what most of these fighters that I feel are being avoided. That's the point. You know, total domination is a problem. So yes, I think Mike Tyson does have an issue when it comes to fighting Evander Holyfield. I don't know what you think, but I know it's always been that way. right? And it's not going to change. Now, when it comes to these older fights that are going down, are popping off, right? These exhibitions, I'm not really for them. You know, I would like more headgear and stuff like that, you know, to make sure. Because the guys, you know, I know you feel like you can do stuff that you could before, but I'm not sure if your brain should be rattling around in your head at that age. So with headgear, then I'd probably be a little bit more, you know, receptive to it. But okay, I do say this. If there was a fight that I did want to see, it would be Mike Tyson and Holyfield. That's the one, right? That's why it's not going to happen. Let's see what's up, y'all. Dome Sports Talk Worldwide. And I'm up out of here, y'all.